Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. My name is Nick.
I'm Ian.
And since drummers don't really get a lot of credit, they're not like the front man, they're not the guitar player, they're not like the sexy pick of the band. Today we're going to give drummers a little love and talk about some of our favorite drummers. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on the link down below and go check out the Vinyl Den Facebook group. I say it every episode, but it's a growing place where we kind of continue the music conversation. There's also a couple other links down below. There's a link down there for the Vinyl Den merch page. We can get one of these nice t-shirts that Ian is not wearing. Hey, but Ian's wearing a Pink Floyd shirt, so I give him a lot of credit for that. It's probably the only Pink Floyd shirt Ian owns. But
it is. It is.
Hey, one counts, I guess. So check that out. There's also a link down there for the Patreon page. If you want to support the show, we would greatly appreciate it. If you like the episode, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time we release new episodes.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about some of our favorite drummers. We're not going to really rank them because I think it's really kind of hard to rank drummers and compare them across like subgenres of rock. I think is really kind of a difficult thing to do. And it's really kind of hard to take a drummer from, say, 2008 and compare him to a drummer in 1972. You know, it's kind of hard to compare across long distances, long spans like that.
In some cases, I don't know if it's necessarily eras, but like you said, subgenres. How do you compare someone that's in, say, a progressive rock subgenre to someone who's in like a punk rock?
Exactly.
Because the musical styles are going to be completely different, and punk, by its very nature, is very simplistic, whereas progressive...
Some of it's a little more complex.
It's kind of meant to be...
Especially like early punk, think of like Sex Pistols,
right.
Ramones, things like that. But,
Whereas, like say progressive rock is something that's, more akin to like jazz and improvisational type music.
Yeah.
So
That
just
sense.
very different.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to compare the drummers between those two subgenres specifically.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about some of our favorite ones. Make sure you drop a comment down below. Let us know what you guys think and who your favorite drummers over the last 50, 60 years are. Mm-hmm. So like I said in the intro there, drummers tend to not get a lot of the credit, I don't think, at least over the last 60 years of rock music. So I figured today we'll kind of look at drummers from two different perspectives. Ian's going to kind of look at like the classic rock drummers, and I'm going to look at a little bit more of the more modern rock, say like early 80s to now. So I think the first one that kind of comes to my mind is Lars from Metallica, which I'm not a huge fan of some of the personal stances he's taken over the years, especially with the whole Napster thing. I think he came off not as good as he wanted that to come off to. I think It's kind of colored a lot of people's perspectives of him, but I think his drumming is really great. He really helped kind of pioneer that drumming style through thrash and kind of that hard rock heavy metal kind of scene in the 80s. I think a lot of drummers in that scene that came after Metallica, I think owe a lot of that drumming style to Lars and some of the things that he pioneered, I think, over that time period.
So one that I would recommend, or I like, Neil Peart. It's kind of an easy answer.
Yeah, that was one of the first ones that popped in my head too.
I mean, he's up there with, he ranks really high amongst most people as far as drumming goes. And it's a well-deserved ranking, I think. For me, drumming is kind of something I don't notice unless the drummer's doing more, going above and beyond. So Neil Peart's drumming always stood out to me.
Yeah. So. Another one that I think over the last 30 years, I think that doesn't get a lot of credit that he probably deserves is Dave Grohl. I mean, Dave. Granted, a lot of the stuff with Nirvana wasn't the most complex. I don't think it really needed to be, though. And also when I look at different drummers, I don't necessarily just look at playing style. I also look at the charisma that the drummer had. Some of the influence that they have had over the years. And I think Dave. By all accounts, is a great guy personally. I think I've never heard anyone say anything bad about him.
No.
But I think he has influenced drummers over the last 20 or 30 years. And maybe not so much as other drummers have, but I definitely think there's an influence there. I think if you look at the first Foo Fighters album,
which I just found out of this today.
Yeah, Dave actually did all of the instruments on there. He not only did he play all the guitars, he played drums and bass on the album. And I think his drum work on that first Foo Fighters album is probably better than any of the work he had done with Nirvana before.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
And Taylor Hawkins is a great drummer who has taken over for Dave, behind the drum kit for Foo Fighters, and he's another great drummer. But I think that Dave Grohl, I think over the last 30 years, with the stuff he's done with Nirvana, with the stuff he did with early Foo Fighters, I think he's built enough of a discography or body of work to really show that he is probably one of the better modern drummers.
Yeah. So for my next pick, if we were ranking them, this would be my number one, most likely. Carl Palmer of Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Which is a great pick, for sure.
Especially if you listen to some of the long-form instrumental songs by them, his drumming is doing things that are head and shoulders above what typically would be done with drums. Mm-hmm. And it's necessary to keep up with what Keith Emerson's doing on the keyboards and what Greg Lake's doing on bass and guitar, because, especially when you're doing an instrumental like long form like that, it does go back to the jazz thing. But if you listen to some of those older tracks, Tank and From the Beginning, things like that, and even Tarkus, which isn't necessarily an instrumental, Tarkus and Carnival 9, it's fantastic stuff.
The thing that I really like about that pick is he was doing revolutionary things with drums that was in a period of revolutionary music, in the 70s.
Right.
Where everyone was kind of doing something different and really trying to push the envelope as far as music in general goes. He was even head and shoulders above a lot of the other drummers in that era.
Yeah, his contemporaries. Yeah, totally. That's why it'd be my number one, most likely.
So for my last one is one that, over the last, I'd say, probably 5 to 10 years, he's been maybe one of the most influential artists or people in rock music today, and that is Travis Barker, which, he was the drummer for Blink-182 from Enema of the State was his first album. He's currently still their drummer, but he's done a lot of other stuff. He's done a lot of producing. He played drums on Machine Gun Kelly's album that came out last year. He's done a lot of work with Youngblood, some other artists that are coming up. I believe he did some production work on Mod Sun's new album that came out this year. So he's doing a lot of things outside of drumming. Obviously, his drumming style, when you hear Travis Barker play drums, it's Travis Barker. He's got a very distinct drum style, that I think fits perfectly with what Blink-182 did and is continued to do. That pop punk or punk rock style in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think Travis had a big role in it, in his drumming style, and it's stuff that you're seeing a resurgence in that pop punk music in 2020 and 2021, primarily because of Travis Barker.
Okay, so for my next one, I've had a rough time with this, even just sitting here going through it in my head. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to pick two back to back.
Come on. All right, go ahead. Hey, I mentioned two, I guess. I mentioned Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins, so there you go.
All right. It's quick. I'm not going to, overstep it, but Neil Smith of Alice Cooper, the original Alice Cooper band, and Barrymore Barlow of Jethro Tull from 71 to 79. Because a lot of the Jethro Tull stuff, the fantastic Jethro Tull stuff, and I'll get no argument from you, is during that period of time, and a lot of it had to do with Barrymore's drumming,
especially in the early part of the 70s.
Yes, there's a little bit of a semi-drum solo in "Thick as a Brick" that's fantastic. And it's kind of mind blowing. It was mind blowing the first time I heard it, anyway. Yeah. And then if you take Neil Smith and look at what he was doing with the Alice Cooper band, where the music is still kind of straightforward rock and roll, but his drumming is kind of a step above what rock and roll was at the time, and even still is in many cases.
Yeah.
And there was this little feud that Neil Smith had with Keith Moon, where they would buy new drums to add to their sets, and Keith Moon would, call him up and say, "Hey, I got so many drums," and then Neil Smith would have to run out and go and buy another set to try and one up him.
Yeah,
it's a little anecdote Alice Cooper always tells about Neil Smith and Keith Moon.
Yeah, but Neil Smith was really the backbone of that early
Alice stuff,
Alice Cooper band music, which that's my favorite period of Alice Cooper's music was when he had the Alice Cooper band. And he did a lot of great work over those albums for sure.
Absolutely.
So that's all we got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Like I said before, drop a comment down below. Let us know who your favorite drummers are over the last, like I said, 50, 60 years. Really, regardless of, subgenre or rock. Or really any kind of drummer overall. I know there's a lot of great jazz drummers and stuff out there too. But drop a comment, let us know. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give us the old thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below.
Notification bell.
Check out the Vinyl Den Facebook group. Check out our merch page. Check out the Patreon page. And that's all we got. Until next time.
Talk to y'all later.
Keep on spinning. Peace.